Hello and thank you for watching. So today on my 2017 Porsche Macan, I'm hoping to complete the suspension work which has been pending for quite some time. You can see that I've got both the bits that I know need to be replaced out of the car now, and behind it is the main reason why I bought one of these tools, part of set. They're really pretty sturdy KS tools. It's wide enough at the bottom to get over the ball joints, and can apply enough pressure once you tighten it with a 19mm spanner. It's done the job to remove all the ball joints. I ended up actually releasing the steering, although I'm not convinced in the end I ended up needing to, so I'll have to put that back in place. It's just sort of tied up out the way, and to get the bolt out at the back there, you have to effectively turn the steering all the way to the left. It makes it easier. You just can't get the bolt out otherwise underneath the gator. I had a go at it trying to get it out, and it just wasn't going to clear. I just hope I haven't applied too much pressure to nick the gator. I'll need to check that after, but so eventually I actually needed to turn it, so that's now out, which is great. The other piece that I didn't really need to do was, I thought I was going to have to take out the ball joint that sits at the bottom here. I don't know if you can quite see the ball joint around there as I try and get the camera in. It's just there, so it seems to have popped up slightly, haven't really, because I'd taken the bolt out thinking I might need to take that out as a one piece, and then separate it out the car, because that's how I'd seen somebody else do it. Although they were doing an A4, it looked to be almost the same parts that they were replacing. Turns out that actually once you've released the rear, this can be tilted far enough forward that it's missing the drive shaft, and therefore you can get this piece in again on at the top of it and pop it out. So got to see how that's going back in. I think it has moved slightly. I'll need to see how I get it back in, because then when I try to put this bolt back in, it looks as if I'm stripping the threads because it's catching on the locating piece within the ball joint. So I need to replace that bolt anyway, and see how I actually get that seated properly. So I'm going to start anyway by starting to refit some of the new pieces, and then see if that's going to settle back into place, and obviously the bolt can be got and put on before I move the car. So I'm going to get into that now. Apologies for not showing you all of what needed to be done, but I'll just quickly take you through it. So I started with the rear piece here. Well, that's the old one that you'd removed. Removed the bolt at the back here, so the nut came off, and to get the bolt out at the back, it needed to release the heat shield. You can see one of the screws that's taken out there. There's 3 screws seems to be holding this in. It doesn't come out fully, but it just allows it enough flexibility once they're out, to be able to move it to the side, to allow it to drop that out. Say, pop out the ball joint at the front. The other ones I think previously, this one here, middle bolt was already out. I say turn the steering all the way to the left, which means then the bolt that can come out through this, and then that allows that to be rotated forward enough that I can get that on, and say pop the steering off as well. It's just got to make sure you get it, has to go in behind the disc, sort of cover behind there. It needs to sit in behind that as well. I was able to get that in and pop that off, but I'm not absolutely convinced that needed to be done. But I'll start reassembling all now, and also torquing it back up to spec. Well, these pieces went in much easier than they came out. I guess because as soon as I removed the rear piece that needed replaced, the whole hub sort of moved forward. There was quite a difference actually, as I suspected, in the old piece to the new piece, in its shape. It was not obvious exactly where it was bent, but clearly over the whole length of it, it was actually moved quite considerably, about 5 centimetres probably, and therefore the hub just moved forward as soon as that was released, and that's meant that the new pieces have gone back in just a bit easier. Still got to try and make sure you sort of locate them in the right way, which means this rear piece, you need to make sure that the bit where it goes into the hub, the bolt joint there, is located first before you slip in the rear. Something I did on this one, I did the rear first, then on the hub, and then connected the bar in the middle, and then reconnected the bit down here, which you could just see for the that's the screw that are not there, is for the steering, which I'd obviously put that bolt back in first before I moved the steering back to centre, and reconnected it. I haven't moved anything on the adjustment. Probably will get it checked, confirm its alignment is all right, but the fact that everything's now going back into place so much more easily suggests that replacing these two pieces was what was required. I've still to get, obviously we'll get a replacement bolt, this one here, which is I think it was just the fact that it was a bit frustrating having removed it when it wasn't needed. I need to get one of them to make sure that the ball joint is actually retained within the hub, but that's hopefully relatively minor, given this job. I've obviously not done something like this before. I've taken the suspension off before when I was dismantling the car, but never put it back together. So pleased that that's done. There's just one final piece to be done. There's a cover which goes over these 3 fuel lines. You can see the three screws there. Put them back in place, but the cover itself just needs to go back in place. And that's the plate back in place and the wheel on as well, and that is sitting in a much better position. I've measured it and it does look as if it's certainly far better than it was. Small difference in distance from wing to wheel on both sides, but at the moment the steering is not absolutely perfectly central, but it's huge difference from what it was before I replaced these two parts. So I think that's certainly the suspension all resolved, but as I say, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Unfortunately, I've had to remove all of the front again, including the radiator, because it was cracked. I think it may have been my own fault. When I was fixing it at one point, I was trying to get everything in place, and it sort of shifted, having been fixed on one side and sort of tilted down. I didn't hear any crack at the time, and I thought it was just pivoting on the buffers that it has, but when I came to draw a vacuum, I couldn't. So I applied some pressure on the system to through my air hose to see if I could work out where it was coming from. I realised it was on the driver's side, a lower connection, effectively that one down there, and I investigated and discovered that the radiator was actually cracked. So I've ordered another one. It's on its way. Hopefully refitting it, given I've been through it once, shouldn't take too long. It'd take me a couple of hours to get it all undone, getting all the pieces off, because it's obviously air conditioning condenser's got to come, be disconnected, the bumper had to come off, all the electrical connections which I'd actually fitted in needed undone, which involves making sure you get the right catch to be able to undo them on each of them are certainly different as to how they're done. So got them all, got that all off, and obviously have ordered another one, but it's going to be a couple of days before it's here. So that's unfortunate, and obviously I'll make sure that I don't make that same mistake second time, so I might enlist some help just to make sure that when I'm fitting it, it doesn't move out of position before it's properly located. Once that's done, obviously look to draw a vacuum, fill the system, and then fill up the ATF. I've still got the electrical connections, which I've started working on. You see there, I'll give you an update on that later. But anyway, I think that'll do for today. Good progress in getting the suspension done. Thank you very much for watching.